In this video, I'm going to be going over the difference between lactic acid and lactate. When you look at lactic acid and lactate, the difference between these two is chemical. Lactate, which is shown here, is lactic acid that's missing one proton. So here we have lactate. It's very similar as lactic acid. Here we have a diagram of lactate. Over here is lactic acid. Diagrams are backwards to each other, but that's not an actual difference. That's just a diagramming difference. The main difference is that when you look at this carbon that's bound to an OH group here and double bond oxygen here, lactate doesn't have that proton. It's missing the proton or hydrogen ion. There's a hydrogen ion there. Remember, an acid is a substance that's able to donate a hydrogen ion. So lactic acid has this hydrogen ion here that can dissociate or be able to donate to another molecule. It releases a hydrogen ion. Once it donates its hydrogen ion, it becomes lactate. Lactate is the conjugate base of lactic acid. So lactate is a base. And remember, the definition of a base is that it can accept or bind onto hydrogen ions or protons. So lactate can bind onto this hydrogen ion and become lactic acid again. Under physiological conditions in the normal pH range, lactic acid, once it's formed, quickly loses or dissociates a hydrogen ion and thus will be in the form of lactate. So when you're talking about lactic acid and the formation of lactic acid in anaerobic respiration, you're going to see some sources that'll say, well, it's not lactic acid that forms, it's lactate. Well, it forms lactic acid, but under normal pH conditions within the body, that lactic acid dissociates very quickly to lactate, which is its conjugate base. In general, you can refer to it as lactic acid or lactate. Either is fine to use, particularly in a general physiology class. They're assumed to be the same, although technically they are not the same. The same thing goes for when we're using pyruvic acid versus pyruvate, or acetic acid and acetate. Under normal physiological conditions, pyruvic acid is going to be pyruvate and acetic acid is going to be acetate. But as I said, you can use the two terms of pyruvic acid versus pyruvate. Either one will be fine. Let's test our knowledge. Go ahead and pause your video and fill in the blanks with the correct answer. Here are the answers. And if you have any questions, please let me know.